For thousands of years, mankind has sought out the mythical substance we now call the Elixir of Life. The tablet, pill, fluid, or even spiritual concept that will enable us to live forever. From ancient Egypt to medieval Europe, great civilizations have secretly worked tirelessly to discover the power of nature, to alter God's predestined human lifespan and unlock the mysteries of eternal life. Along the way, there have been many false claims and foolish ideas, but one secret remained hidden, locked away in a belief system now lost to us and hidden by a jealous church. The secret of the Elixir of Life was discovered, a substance that protected mankind from illness and extended his life, a natural poison that was also a natural cure. We shall discover the secret locked away in the mythology of the ancient worship of the serpent. It will reveal to us the truth behind the Holy Grail and the Philosopher's Stone. And now, with modern science, we will see the wonder of our ancestors and their amazing discovery of the Elixir of Life. There is indeed an excess of mythological data, as well as historical and etymological evidence, to back up the truth that the serpent and the snake was the very literal root of the Holy Grail, the Elixir of Life, and the Philosopher's Stone. And this is clearly laid out in my film and book, Secrets of the Serpent. But can we really prove it to be true scientifically? This is a question that has been asked before, although not in connection with the Holy Grail. Some have questioned the possibility that there could be medicinal benefits from the byproducts of snakes, but nobody has ever gone so far as this in the voyage of discovery. And although there are those scientists who are looking at the protein structure of snake venom as an aid to the immune system, none has linked the immortality factor. Indeed, most scientific research into the immortality factor seems to be in the realm of the geneticist. In 1999, scientists claimed to have discovered a group of genes that hold the key to immortality. Experiments using fruit flies identified that they have genes which have the power to make cells last indefinitely by the simple method of repairing damage. When these genes are activated, the fruit fly can live up to 3 times longer, the only way to death being through wear and tear to their wings and vital organs, making it impossible to compete with other fruit flies for food. This profound research in itself shows that there are still possibilities open to mankind for extended life, if only we can utilise the same methods in humans as those utilised in the fruit fly. But, as ever, there are problems. As Professor Leonard Hayflick pointed out, there are genes that indirectly determine longevity, but if rich people could buy treatment to increase their lifespan, it would cause chaos. And this age-old human desire to search out the Holy Grail of elixirs has caused similar problems in the past. Some have even attempted to profit from their idea that, for some unknown reason, the snake holds the power to heal. This became profoundly evident with the peddlers of the now infamous snake oil back in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The very idea of snake oil remedies is now synonymous with quackery and fraud. But where did this concept originate in the first place? Although many believe the phenomenon to be an all-American idea, it did not in fact originate there. It seems to have begun in England, and we know this from a royal patent issued in 1712 to Richard Staunton's elixir. By 1750, there were already over 200 remedies protected by this same method. Adding to this, all those remedies being touted without patents, and there must have been a substantial amount of revenue created. Very quickly, these medicines were shipped across the globe, until the American Revolution interrupted the supply chain to that particular far-off colony. From here on in, the Americans were basically on their own and forced to produce their own brand of snake oil. By 1849, men such as Perry Davis were household names with remarkable painkillers and cures for such complaints as cholera. Indeed, his own all cure was widely used in virtually the whole world as cholera became epidemic. The whole remedy marketplace was becoming flooded with all manner of weird and wonderful concoctions, such as the Kilmer Brothers Swamp Root and Pinkham's Vegetable Compound. Men such as Doc Healy, Texas Charlie and Nevada Ned were becoming remarkably wealthy individuals, and it is from this overkill that the market sector began to fall into saturation and disrepute. Great medicine shows toured the nation and even the world, pitching their tents and wares in every town. Wonderful mass-produced cure-alls were forced down the necks of the world's gullible, whilst the full-time serious medical practitioners were building up a wealth of knowledge, research and ammunition to knock them down. Eventually, the remedy peddlers were reduced to no more than showmen, and even appeared in Barnum and Bailey's great shows, the act of selling becoming more fascinating than the product they peddled. Because the content of much of the snake oil remedies was in fact alcohol, there was a small resurgence during Prohibition, but eventually there were fewer and fewer takers, as the strict laws against alcohol were eliminated. War came, and real medicine began to take a stronghold on the marketplace. Most of the remedies contained no actual snake oil at all, the name just being in place to imply knowledge of the great secrets of the Native Americans, but one or two did contain snake oil. Real snake oil was highly prized, and in a newspaper article from 1880 we find that John Gear told the reporter how he killed rattlesnakes and extracted oil from their bodies. Gear was a well-known trapper, hunter and snake tamer, selling an extracted oil for $1 per ounce. It was said by many to have great curative powers, and going by the historical evidence we now have, no reason to doubt it. Another man, Clark Stanley, otherwise known as the Rattlesnake King, peddled snake oil liniment, which was believed to be good for man and beast, and in a fanciful exhibition in 1893 he held crowds spellbound as he slaughtered hundreds of rattlesnakes, pressing their juices into vials and creating his famous cure-all. His own advertising campaigns explained how his remedy was a wonderful pain-destroying compound, the strongest and the best. Laying back, lumbago, contracted muscle, toothache, sprains, swellings could all be cured. Stanley claimed that he had discovered the recipe from a Moki, Pueblo Indian, a medicine man, and there is no reason we can find to doubt him, especially when we consider that Native Americans did indeed treat health problems with snake oils and even applied rattlesnake grease onto affected areas. However, by 1905 the rot had well and truly set in, as an article in Collier's magazine entitled "The Great American Fraud" had illustrated. There had to be some origin to this quack attitude, brought to light by the showbiz-style Western peddlers of America. Now, instead of looking at the myth and folklore of the world for clues of etymology and ritual, we need to revisit them with a view to finding good evidence for a scientific approach to the use of snake in medicine. But where to begin? There are literally millions and millions of pages of literature that we could search through, but we would be much older and greyer by the time we'd finished. We do not have to go far to see that across the dimension of time there are hundreds of references to the snake in use as medicine. Much of the scientific evidence comes about within the realm of alchemy, but some is found in folklore and medical history of certain nations. For instance, in regard to Lithuanian folk medicine, we have to sift through research on over 500 animal materials, all utilised for different ailments, to discover at the very core of their medical practice was the snake. It's interesting to note that the application of flaxseed and the fat of a snake or lizard is still used today in the Egyptian countryside as an ointment for rheumatic pains. Stomach diseases were divided by the Tibetan doctors into two kinds, cold and fever, and further subdivided into 7 kinds. For treatment of the bleeding type, use H-Ram-L, sea snail shell powder, snake meat and ammonia salt. Sharp pain in the stomach, liver, chest or lumbar region can be cured by CaCO3, H-Ram-L, snake meat and Inula Rikimusa hook. Ninazu, Lord of Physicians, was an important healing deity, and the emblem of his son was the double-headed snake. A double-headed snake ceremonial beaker is another proof that the link between the snake and medicine is of the Babylonian origin, before the Greeks adopted this concept. Apart from the fact that hundreds of years ago these people were utilising bee stings to aid arthritis, they were also utilising what they called the great healing properties of the snake. They killed the poor animal, dried it out under the sun or over a hot fire, and then immersed it in alcohol. The use of alcohol in the medicinal applications of the snake is very widespread. It is said that Jesus was issued gall, also known as snake venom, and vinegar, which is wine, just like the great alchemist and physician mixing wine and snake. There has been no investigation that we have been able to uncover which has tested the use of alcohol with snake derivatives to see if there are any beneficial qualities introduced. However, it may be a dampening effect on the various toxins by the alcohol which occurs. The Lithuanians said that eating a snake would help a man shrug off illness, just like the snake which sheds its skin. And in relation to the skin, the snake was said to cure dermatological problems in a rather peculiar manner. It was believed that by eating the snake, your hair, nails and skin fall off to some extent, only to grow again even better than before. As yet, we have not tested the theory, and as they say on the TV, don't try this at home. The very reason given by most mythological experts for the serpent's symbolic link with immortality is due to its ability to shed old and ragged-looking skin. It does so without bleeding, without illness or infection. This would have appeared miraculous to early man as they watched the snake renew its flesh. The most prolific use of the snake in medicine, however, must simply be China. To find out about this, we contacted the director of the Institute of Traditional Medicine at Portland, Oregon, who directed us to a paper he had recently written on the subject. According to this paper, the earliest recorded use of snakes in Chinese medicine was the application of sloughed skin, described in Shen Non Ben Chao Jing from approximately 100 AD. But we found that though this was the first written text, there are oral traditions which predate even this. Even at this early stage in written texts, the snake was being utilised to treat superficial diseases such as skin eruptions, eye infections, sore throats and hemorrhoids. This shows a remarkable link with the snake oil peddlers and their claims for skin treatments, as well as the Lithuanian ideas. The use of the snake gallbladder, the meat of the pit viper and snake skin is then mentioned in about 520 AD in the Ming transactions of famous physicians. From here on, there are numerous mentions of the snake in hundreds of Chinese papers, and it is widely believed that much of this information actually originated from India, and to India most likely originated from Sumeria. The reasoning behind this assumption is the fact that there is much evidence of the use of the snake in Mesopotamian, Egyptian and Arabic cultures as well, and all fairly similar to the written texts of the Chinese, although it is just as likely to say that they could have easily developed their own system of medicine and utilisation of the snake, especially as it is a universal truth that the snake has healing powers. What opposes this, though, is the similarity of the myths built around the snake, which points singly to an almost worldwide medicine structure in place. In current Chinese medicine, it is said that there are three main features which appeal to the traditional healer. One is the flexibility and speed. Second is the shedding of the skin, seen as new life or resurrection. And third is the poisonous nature of the bite. They say that the flexibility of the snake implied that substances derived from the snake would aid those suffering from debilitating diseases, such as arthritis. We do find in modern China that 2 snakes are currently used successfully to treat just such diseases, and we also find that they are killed and soaked in alcohol yet again. In fact, so-called snake wine is produced, which is said to aid the problem of wind. The shedding of the skin suggested to the Chinese medicine man that the snake had regenerative powers and is used widely for all manner of skin problems, as well as traditional method of anti-aging. It was discovered early on that the toxicity of the venom, if taken orally, was greatly reduced. Adding to this the discovery that venom caused paralysis, and that now orally taken venom is mixed carefully and administered to patients who have intense pain from muscle contractions and convulsions. Even the very taste, or should we say aftertaste, of the venom was written about, it being said to taste like sweat. Strangely, a drink was created which to our amazement is still served today in southern China, Hong Kong and Taiwan, and in special snake restaurants. One delicacy is to mix rice with snake bile, which is consumed before a meal as an invigorating appetizer. This may sound quite disgusting to Western ears, but there is some sense in what they do. Snake bile has been shown to be good for the treatment of whooping cough, rheumatic pain, high fever, and infantile convulsions, hemorrhoids, and much more. In China and elsewhere, as we shall discover, snakes are becoming very important in the treatment of cancer, especially the agistrodon, which is said to be beneficial for leukemia. The agistrodon halis and the water snake are converted into powder, and about 3 to 5 grams per day are taken with other herbal remedies to treat hepatoma. Recent research has also shown that snake venom itself may actually have some worth in the treatment of cardiovascular diseases. The anticoagulant element of some species has been found to help with reducing blood pressure. We also find again the use of alcohol in the Chinese medicine. In one particular remedy, the venom of the cobra is used as a pain reliever. At a dosage of 0.168 milligram, its pain relieving power is said to be 3 or 4 times greater than morphine, and it does not induce dependence. It is also said to be effective against tumours and heart problems, being a good immune booster. And how is it prepared? Well, 0.3 kg of snake meat is placed in 0.18 kg of wine and left to infuse. It is then swallowed like a whiskey chaser. Cheers. Another use of alcohol is found in the traditional Burmese remedy for stomachache, burns and worms, as well as a whole host of other ailments. The Burmese python this time comes under the knife, where it is killed, powdered, mixed with wine and then drank. Sometimes it is used as a cream for its skin healing properties. Currently, import of such medicines into the West is restricted due to Western guidelines not necessarily being followed in China, and the products therefore being seen as unsafe for our delicate bodies. Only about 100 pounds of snake is now imported, which in comparison to the tons utilised in mainland China pales into insignificance. We simply cannot test en masse for the benefits of the substances, like we do with, say, hormone replacement treatment, and therefore no Western government body is going to authorise its use as a medicine in the public realm and allow it to be issued by a doctor or nurse. It is a shame, as there are those who are literally fighting to get the West to listen to the wisdom of the use of snake derivatives in medicine. Research is being carried out in the East, however, with a great deal of backing. Tu Sung Ming was a pioneer of venom research in Taiwan. Born in 1893, he was the first Taiwanese to become a medical doctor when Taiwan was a colony of Japan. When Tu started to teach, he chose 3 avenues for his students to follow: Chinese traditional medicine, opium, and snake venom. In the late 1920s, he developed several methods to combat opium addiction, and his laboratory was among the first to develop the first urine test to detect traces of the drug. As for his venom research, he asked his students to collect data on incidents of snake bites and the frequency of deaths. They then moved on to try and discover why the venom killed. Tu wanted to turn the killer venom on its head and make it an healing drug. From Tu's initiation into the research on snake venom, many have followed in his footsteps, and even now the research goes on in his laboratory. Now, thankfully, there is hope on the horizon, as new research in America has shown that the protein from the venom of the copperhead viper actually slowed the growth in cancerous tumours in mice by up to 70%. And there is rapidly growing excitement about the whole idea of using snake venom for all sorts of cures. There are perceptions to overcome still: the old idea of snake oil salesmen, the fear of the unknown, and the idea of the danger. And of course, more importantly, the welfare of the animals themselves. Regardless of popular belief, there are relatively few deaths incurred from snake bites, especially when put in comparison with other animals' injuries. In America, there are between 1 and 2 million bites per year, with less than 8 deaths. Of course, we have to take into account the modern use of anti-venom, the age of the prey, and other things. Normally, it is the infection which the bite creates that ends up killing the individual, and not the venom. Obviously, there are some snakes which are extremely venomous, and all should be avoided. But generally, the snake will not attack you for no reason, the reason generally being self-defense. Venom is a poison that an animal injects and is an evolutionary adaptation of the saliva glands to immobilize prey, not kill. It is in the interest of the attacker to keep the prey fresh. The defensive element of venom is only secondary. The highly toxic venom is produced in special oral glands, which in other animals are saliva glands, and snake venom is considered to be modified saliva via evolution. Because of the high levels of enzymes and proteins in the venom, the injected poison also tends to begin the digestive process, whereby the cellular structure is broken down. Not all venoms are the same though. There are many different mechanisms involved, and the diversity of the various elements which make up this unique poison are immense. The makeup of venom is generally 90% protein by dry weight, and most of these proteins are enzymes. At present, scientists have isolated approximately 25 enzymes, which are proving to be of great medicinal worth. All these enzymes work in different ways, and splitting them out is an essential part of the scientist's work, almost like the alchemist trying to break down the structure of his elixir. Some enzymes are involved in the actual breakdown of tissue proteins. Others help to speed up the process of the venom throughout the prey's tissue, and some are destructive of muscles and nerves. There are many more enzymes which break down connective tissues, and others which disrupt normal cellular functions. There are other elements to the venom which are not enzymes, such as polypeptide toxins and glycoproteins. One thing is true though, most snakes have more than one toxin in their venom, the cumulative effect of which is more potent poison. Generally though, most snakes can be broken down into two categories: those that are neurotoxic, which affect the nervous system, and those which are hemotoxic, which affect the blood and circulatory system. Understanding the various elements of the snake venom has been crucial to medical science. By discovering what the individual chemicals and enzymes do, the scientists are now utilising the beneficial effects that can come from them. For instance, the coagulation element of the venom can help stop blood clotting in certain patients, whereas the thrombosis element can help those who need their blood thickening. The neurotoxins may yet be found to be excellent pain relief, as many people with arthritis are discovering. A greater understanding of what are known as inorganic icons will help the researchers to turn off or on the specific harmful or helpful enzymes. There is in fact a massive potential for snake venom because of the very fact that it contains such a unique diversity of elements. It seems that the venom is not used for medicinal purposes in its entirety. Instead, the various constituent parts are split out and used for such things as pain relief and blood disorders. Drugs used in cardiovascular treatment were derived entirely from research into the Bothrops venoms, which were found to contain peptides which interrupted the enzyme involved in hypertension or high blood pressure. Cobroxin, a kind of morphine, is derived from cobra venom, and arvin, the anticoagulant, is an extract of the Malayan pit viper. The various components of snake venom are also utilised in research for physiology, biochemistry and immunology. By using the specific elements which speed up or indeed slow down the biochemical and cellular process, the researchers can judge more easily the response to certain drugs in individuals. Venoms are also currently being investigated for their use as antiviral and antibacterial agents, as well as for epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, cardiovascular disease, neuritis, conjunctivitis and cataracts. The list is widening and seemingly endless. The Journal of the American Medical Association in 2000 reported on the outcome on the trial of a new drug made from the venom of a Malayan pit viper. It's called Ancrod and is made by Knoll Pharmaceuticals. It acts by producing defibrinogenation in straight patients. Fibrogen is a protein which is synthesized by the liver, and the depletion of it makes an anticoagulant effect, which decreases the thickness of the blood, which in turn leads to improved circulation. Ancrod is used in Canada and Europe as a therapy for such things as peripheral vascular disease, central retinal venous thrombosis, and deep vein thrombosis. Some studies show indications that it could also be effective against stroke. One trial of 500 people, with roughly half receiving the drug within 3 hours of a stroke, the other half receiving a placebo, showed good results. Neurological functions were assessed in both groups. The group who received Ancrod came out better than those receiving the placebo. Although Ancrod is not believed to be completely safe, it is said to offer an improved therapeutic option for stroke patients. Ingredients from the red-necked spitting cobra are providing ideas on the breaking down of cell membranes, which, it is hoped, will eventually provide treatment for leukemia and cancer. Snake venoms, as we have already discovered, are multi-component systems whose toxins are mostly proteins and polypeptides. Proteins, as we all know, are vital to the human body and increase youthful appearance. Polypeptides are amino acids and are derived from proteins. All snake venoms, although deadly, are completely reversible with the correct antivenom. One way of creating antivenom is by injecting venom into the bloodstream of a horse and collecting the antivenoms like a factory from the bloodstream of the beast. Even humans become immune to venom after small doses are administered, and it may be this very act of administering the venom which protected the ancients from bites. The Hebrews only had to look at the brazen serpent to be saved from snake bites. The concept is believed that it is high level of proteins in the snake venom which makes it so deadly, and modern science is doing all it can to break down these elements, split them out and use them individually for separate diseases. It may be, though, that the watering down of venom by using blood, especially the blood of the same snake, which acts as an antidote and protects it from its own venom. This may be what is the virtual all-healer of the ancients. We are under no doubt that our ancestors were highly capable of subjecting huge numbers of people to testing in order to get the mix of the venom and blood just right. Similar large-scale testing was carried out in ancient Babylon when the priests were developing their astrological forecasting systems. For now, however, we have to realise and welcome the fact that there are those scientists in the West who are willing to look at the individual elements of the venom and develop new medicines accordingly. The Cancer Research Campaign in the UK welcomed research into what is known as chondrostatin, or CN, which is the protein found in the copperhead viper's venom. It was found that this protein had an even bigger effect on metastasis, the spread of the malignant tumour from its original source. It was found that CN had a 90% effect on tumours spreading in mice. The Cancer Research Campaign said, "It's the spread of cancer, which in the majority of cases is so devastating. This work is interesting because it's highly targeted to tumour cell behaviour. Although it's early days, it's an intelligent way of dealing with cancer and clearly has therapeutic potential. Inhibiting metastatic spread of cancer and tumour blood vessel development are two of the key approaches under investigation." The US Food and Drug Administration has already approved one drug derived from the rattlesnake called integrillin, which is being used to treat people suffering from chest pains, unstable angina, and small heart attacks. In a recent study of 10,948 patients in 27 countries, the drug was found to reduce the risk of heart attack and death by 1.5%. More research is needed, however, to increase the success rate. Another remedy from the alternative field of homeopathic medicine is lachesis. This time, the venom is not so much split apart into separate enzymes. More to the point, it is being almost completely obliterated in dilution. Homeopathy subjects a given substance to huge amounts of dilution, normally in water, and is a subject of huge controversy in the medical world. Here is a medicine developed along similar lines to the idea we are getting from history and mythology, but this time in a modern bottle, not a chalice, and called lachesis, not the elixir. Lachesis is the venom of the Central and South American snake, which is itself called Lachesis muta. It is the largest venomous snake found in the New World, measuring up to 4 meters, and is related to the rattlesnake. Only small doses of the venom are needed to totally destroy red blood cells, and extracting the venom and then diluting it in large quantities of lactose creates the medicine. Homeopaths today recommend lachesis for patients whose symptoms are similar to those actually created by the poison. Strangely, the symptoms are the same as those created by sulfur poisoning, which we found quite amazing when we considered the use of the symbolic sulfur by the alchemists. It may be for this reason that sulfur was chosen as the symbol of snake venom. Lachesis in dilution can eliminate the symptoms of venom poisoning at full strength, showing the scientific use of a highly diluted version of the snake poison. It is said to aid choking coughs, croup, earaches, sore throats, indigestion, throbbing headaches, insomnia, hot flushes, hemorrhoids, and sciatica, among others. It is, unlike many other forms of snake cures, available over the counter from a homeopath. It seems the homeopathic scientists were among the only ones actually leading the way in utilising snake venom for good ends. Lachesis mutus, for instance, was discovered by Constantine Herring and is now said by all homeopaths to be one of the most important remedies available. Herring, against all orthodox and scientific advice, travelled with his wife to the South American jungle, searching for new homeopathic remedies. The indigenous Indians informed him about the snake, which had terrified them for generations. They claimed that even its very breath was lethal. Herring eventually convinced them to show him the whereabouts of the snake, and together they managed to trap a live one. He took the poison in a diluted form, but almost immediately the toxic took effect, and for several hours he suffered various symptoms. Just before losing consciousness, Herring instructed his wife to carry on taking notes of all the reactions induced. These notes were later entered into the Materia Medica and have since helped cure thousands of people. Strangely, Herring never liked wearing tight collars. It gave him an unpleasant feeling of sensitivity. One of the key symptoms of lachesis poisoning is just that, a tight feeling on the throat, and by taking the remedy of diluted lachesis mutus, Herring actually cured one of his own problems. There is no strict scientific evidence for the truth behind homeopathic remedies, just thousands of satisfied people. There is a lot of scientific research currently being carried out regarding this peculiar science of similar cure, that like cures like, and as yet it has the boffins baffled. However, it is paramount to note, for the purpose of this new theory, that the most powerful homeopathic remedy available is from the venom of the snake. This new research is only minor in comparison to the huge amounts of money being invested in drugs that even smaller success rates, and there still remain good scientists with no monetary backing who are being left alone to carry out their research. These are scientists who, in stark contrast to the ones who split the venom apart, actually believe that the whole venom, or indeed the whole snake, should be seen as a useful medical tool. One such man was known lovingly by the natives as Snake Man. Many years ago, this elusive man grew fascinated with the use of ancient Mayan medicine, which appeared to be derived from snakes, and left behind his Canadian lifestyle. This fascination led him to Belize, where he began the long journey of discovery. After only a short time, Snake Man came to the belief that healing was more about helping to boost the immune system rather than treating the affected area with modern drugs. In this modern world of ours, we are seemingly losing the battle against mutating diseases and increasingly resistant strains of viruses. Ancient diseases are reappearing across the globe where we believed them to be almost extinct. A legend of his own time, Snakeman, otherwise known as Peter Singfield, was seen as a great god of medicine. Hundreds of natives visited this peculiar medicine man for immune-boosting remedies, which only a few Westerners taking drugs. Snakeman's background does not give away his remarkable rebirth as a medicine man. Having been a mechanic and engineer at the National Research Institute, he did, however, study medicine and chemistry as a hobby. In the course of his studies in Belize, Snakeman became friendly with a Mopan, Mayan healer known as Don Eligio Panti, the last Mayan shaman with the title Dr. Priest. Panti died in 1996 at the age of 103. Snakeman moved on and met up with another unnamed healer from El Salvador, who introduced him to cascabel. It is strongly believed to be the source of one of the most potent medicines known to the ancient Mayans, and means rattlesnake. Cascabel is still in use today in Mexico and Central America. However, the healing properties did not seem to be extremely effective against the major ailments, and so Snakeman went in search of the right ingredients. Eventually, he discovered a subspecies of the tropical rattlesnake called sabcan, which he found held a much more potent strength and simply improved the ingredients of cascabel greatly. The use of cascabel has been proven to have antiquity, as it appears within the Mayan codices, explaining that no agitated rattlesnake may be used. It turned out that the new subspecies Snakeman had discovered was indeed more docile than the previously used species. Snakeman produced the medicine in the traditional Mayan way by skinning, drying, baking and grinding snakes. Natives from across the area brought dead snakes to Snakeman for him to convert into medicine. It is believed that cascabel is a strong immune booster, which promotes rapid healing and aids the body to fight against diseases such as AIDS, cancer, terminal diabetes and ulcers. All of this helps us to live longer. The high levels of proteins may have some effect within the medicine, although because it is not known what element of the drug is the immune booster, the FDA and other authorities around the world will not act upon its benefits. This reluctance to fund or even test Snakeman's theories have left him dejected to the West, and now only 1 or 2 Westerners take the drug. Using cascabel has been proven scientifically to work. In one spectacular sequence there are images of a young drug addict who had suffered severe burns inflicted by his dealers. The burns had turned gangrene, and the only Western method of treatment would definitely have been amputation and antibiotics. However, cascabel stopped the invasion of gangrene and aided the regeneration of tissues. Now the man has gained the full use of his arm without the need for any Western medical intervention. If we remember back to mythology surrounding the Celtic cauldrons and the Holy Grail ideas of healing, then we can now see how these great mystical items could have healed armies of war wounds and regenerated them to fight again another day. There is no substance on the planet, even today, which can do such a remarkable and magical thing. But there was once the snake. We cannot leave out now the famous Bill Hast from our story. This amazing man has been injecting himself with snake venom since 1948, and has built up such powerful antibodies that his blood, like the horse, has been used as antivenom. In addition to injecting himself, he has also been bitten at least 168 times. Hast believes strongly that venom has kept him healthy, claiming to have never been sick in his entire life since taking the venom. Bill Hast is not a doctor. He is instead a lover of snakes. Until recently ran one of the world's largest serpentariums. At the age of 90, it was said that Bill Hast looked no more than 50, walking with a spring in his step and a secret in his veins. What obviously needs serious investigations now are the uses, the sources, and the big question of why it works. As Snakeman discovered, the level of effect of the medicine can easily depend upon the species of snake utilised. All over the world there are different species of snakes, all probably with different levels of effectiveness. It may be that different species were used for different ailments, but one thing is common, that venomous snakes across the board seem to improve the immune system, albeit at various levels of effectiveness. One of the most well-known methods of anti-aging is called calorie restriction. This is a dietary method which emerged in the 1930s and allows for a diet which is rich in nutrients but low in calories. In a series of 2,000 experiments, it was found to dramatically extend the lifespan of animals such as mice, rats, and even monkeys, and is now popular among the anti-aging fraternity, although we would strongly advise anybody to take their doctor's advice before proceeding to follow such a diet. One thing we do know is that the snake is very high in nutrients and low in calories, and this may be one of the ways in which the snake aids life extension. What is most striking about this research into the snake is that there could possibly be many ways in which the snake helps us live longer. What it definitely seems to do is boost the immune system, adding to the power of T cells. It may be that we can discover some of the secrets of the snake by looking at the uses of other animals in medicine. The bee, for instance, we've already mentioned, is well known to help arthritis and muscular pain. There are thousands of people across the globe who daily subject themselves to bee stings in order to overcome the constant pain they find themselves in. The element within the bee sting, therefore, seems to be a blood-borne pain reliever. The eel, a snake-like fish, is found in fresh and salt water around the world. In one Japanese legend, there is a story where eels disguise themselves as dragons. They are seen attacking horses that have ventured too far into the waters and suck their blood. This recalls the ancient association with serpents, dragons and snakes with water, and the eel has pretender trying to steal the blood back from them in the symbolised form of the horse. Eels can, however, be used medicinally. Eel's skin wrapped around a joint can cure pain or ache. In Europe, the ointment of the eel is said to allow mortals the power to see fairies. So we would see in the eel a hallucinogenic substance that also aids the relief of pain. Neither, to our knowledge, has the eel been found anywhere in mythology to be a life extender. It does seem that we always revert back to the snake. Yes, there are many animals which are said to be good for this ailment or that, but they are not held up as the all-healers, the cure-alls, and the road to immortality. These are particular to the specific snake. There are many plants and herbs also similar to those various animals with specific cures, but it is only in relation to the snake that any of them become associated with immortality. There may be one specific herb, for instance, which was used to help with the discomfort of taking snake venom and blood in Europe. Chamomile, a pungent herb of the genus Anthemis, was widely used in medicinal ways. From the time of the Romans, we can see why the ancient Egyptian snake lovers thought it to be sacred. The Romans believed strongly that chamomile was an antidote to snake venom. Could this herb have been used in the mixing bowl with the snake venom and blood? In Europe, later on, this herb became popular and was itself on the symbolic all-healer, becoming an infused drink across the entire continent. In the end, we revert back to the snake as the ultimate ideology of immortality, and we have a specific scientific assumption to make regarding why this may be so. A theory, not tested and not proven, but a theory, which is backed by the surrounding evidence. We have heard that injecting the horse with venom creates antivenom. The active antibodies of the horse's immune system then goes on to create antivenom, and the horse in turn has been shown to live longer and have its own immune system boosted. The blood reacts with the venom in such a way as to make it an opposite of what it was previously. Now, when the snake attacks a prey and injects a lethal dose of venom, it then goes on to eat the prey, with all this venom still within the bloodstream of the prey. It would therefore still be poisonous, but the snake devours the poor animal without any side effects. Most importantly, somewhere in the snake's blood is an opposing affecting antivenom itself, which when mixed with the venom of the snake cancels out the poisonous effects. Mixing the two together in the correct dosages could therefore create a perfectly enhancing immune system booster, which could be taken orally or otherwise by us. It could therefore be for this reason that in many parts of the world the whole snake is used, and there may be something within the very burning and powdering of the snake which hermetically fuses the venom and blood together. Various strengths and remedies could be created, and over a period of time any good shaman or medicine man could test out the strengths on slaves or otherwise keen volunteers. The myths and folklore traditions from around the globe seem to back this theory, as we have shown. What is required now is scientific testing. Experimental evidence for the beneficial aspects of the snake is not necessarily hard to come by, and as we have shown, there are people around the globe taking snake-derived medicine and being healed. What is difficult, however, is the evidence from the scientists. There is relatively little funding around, or indeed enough interest to seek funding. Although we are opposed to the murder of innocent animals, we are sure that should serious research be carried out to discover the secret formula found within the body of the snake, then an artificial drug could be created to stimulate the effect of boosting the immune system. The one most striking scientific element of the snake, which must be the reason for its association with the Holy Grail, is the immune boosting action. It is the boosting of the immune system, the aid to the T cells, which simply must be the aid to seeming immortality. Several people, in close connection to the use of the snake, have lived ridiculously long lives, whilst those around them die. In our modern age, we have already boosted our immune system with drugs, good healthcare, good diet, safe and warm houses, and much more. But there are still many who would benefit from further enhanced immune systems. But is it becoming a fact that immortality may just be around the corner? It is, according to many scientists. Dr. Ben Bova, President Emeritus of the National Space Society, said, "The first immortal beings are living among us today. You might be one of them. There are men and women alive today who may well live for centuries, perhaps even extend their lifespans indefinitely. They will not become feeble and sickly. Aging will be stopped, even reversed. You may be young and vigorous forever." Of course, we cannot eliminate viral infections, disease, accidents and warfare, but we can boost the immune system, and we can and are working hard on what is known as the Hayflick limit. This Hayflick limit was discovered in the 1970s by Leonard Hayflick, who found that most types of human cells have natural limits to the number of times they divide. Once their time is up, the cells cease to divide or reproduce. There are, however, immortal cells, such as cancer cells, which, barring outside interference, will simply live forever. They have no Hayflick limit. Even lowly bacteria are immortal. The task at hand is twofold: how to stop the harmful immortal cells from living, and how to make good cells immortal. Many scientists are turning to what are known as telomeres. Basically, inside every cell in the human body are strands called chromosomes. Human cells have 46 chromosomes. These contain the now well-known DNA, the Bible of life. At the tip of each chromosome is a kind of cap, which scientists have named the telomere. This telomere stops the end of the chromosomes from sticking together. Bacterial DNA does not have telomere caps, and therefore the ends stick together in a kind of circle. As Ben Bova says, like a snake swallowing its tail. It is believed that these caps are the clock of aging. Each time the cell divides, the telomere shortens, and when it is short enough, the cell ceases to divide and we grow old. In 1998, researchers had announced that they had managed to extend the life of human cells indefinitely when they added telomerase, an enzyme which has been found to build new telomeres. Cancer cells were found to produce telomerase in plentiful supply, and this gave the researchers the clue. Telomerase is present in normal human cells, but for some reason, as yet unknown, it is deactivated. By adding telomerase into the cell in abundance, it was found that activation occurred. Of course, scientists have also pointed out that this may increase the rate of cancer in certain individuals. What is surprising is that 90% of the dry weight of most snake venom is protein and peptide. This protein of the venom is what attracts most attention, with the enzyme groups taking most of the credit for its healing factors. The truth is, however, that nobody yet knows exactly what effect these proteins have, and which proteins have the effects. There are success stories within rational science, however, such as a new drug called Capoten, which has been developed from the venom of the Brazilian pit viper. Scientists found that using a rational design based on a nanopeptide called teprotide, they could produce blood pressure lowering drug. It may be that over a period of time researchers will fully develop an understanding of the entire benefits of the snake and come full circle in discovering what the ancients knew all along. We are coming closer all the time, but maybe we can use some element of modern science to show the benefits of the snake in a roundabout sort of way. We know that the trance state and the enlightenment experience were sometimes initiated by or facilitated by psychoactive drugs or substances, and this shouldn't be ignored. There is a substance which relates to the pineal in a strange and unseen way. It is the drug soma, otherwise known as rue or hooma. The Latin term is Perganum harmala, and it is also said that the term Essene came from another name of this wonderful drug, the Essene bush, thus showing that these early teachers of Christ were well in touch with the pharmacology of the plants and animals around them. It is with this drug that strange shamanic trance states were achieved and enlightenment gained. However, the most startling discovery is that this rue is said by alchemical tradition to be a neutralizer of snake poison via its beta carbolines. When Christ was on the cross, he was issued gall and vinegar. The gall is snake venom, but it was previously believed that the vinegar was just stale wine. According to the Nag Hammadi Gospels and other alchemical texts, this vinegar was called the vinegar of the four thieves, and one of its ingredients was Pergamum Hamala. the very drug that neutralises poison. It has been said that both the taking of Pabangam Hamala and a subtle mixture of snake venom cause trance-like visions of snakes, leading people to perceive that they are experiencing other worlds or even enlightenment. They may well be. However, we would have to say that this psychedelic effect is partly caused by the mixture of drugs sparking the pineal gland to release hormones such as melatonin, a potent antioxidant, which has been shown by many scientists to be beneficial in combating anti-aging and cancer, as well as a number of other problems. These are the happy hormones. It has to be put forward that this unique mixture of poison and hallucinogenic drugs must have made the ancient user feel that they were in contact with their god. It would have boosted their immune system and left them on a high for several days, almost a feeling of being born again. It can also be no coincidence that in the subtle language of symbolism, the pineal is known as the cup or chalice, and that mundane Christians still operate this very ritual to this day. It is now a distinct possibility that the so-called human journey of the Grail, that of seeking enlightenment, of seeing stars and shiny objects, of visiting magical and dreamlike places, and of immortality, could have been facilitated by these trance drug mixtures, or very well be the result of them. Discovered as they were and evolved over a long period of time as laid down in myth and legend. They also held the secret elixir within them, the venom of the snake. Of course, adding in the later meditative device boosted this psychedelic trip. By meditating, the initiate synchronises his brainwaves to 8 Hz, and by closing his eyes he actually ceases the flow of melatonin leakage into the greater body, thus saturating the neocortex, which in turn boosts the cycle and increases the yield of melatonin and another peculiar hormone called pinoline. This extra pinoline is now believed to actually help the cells in our body to replicate, thus extending life and boosting the immune system, apart from actually activating the brain by as much as 40% more than normal. The science of the Grail and the Philosopher's Stone, and almost more importantly, the mystical idea of enlightenment, which has subdued and led billions of people for thousands of years to follow a religious doctrine or dogma, could have been facilitated by, or possibly have been the result of, a chemical and drug-induced trip. We can improve our health, our immune system, be more alert, live much longer, and all the time enjoy the whole ride. The worship of the serpent or snake is found in every culture of the globe. It is seen as wise and powerful. In the Bible, it is the only animal to speak with its own voice. It holds the secret of immortality. All religions, all myths and folk tales hold within them the secret of the snake. Jesus was compared to the wise serpent. Moses held up the serpent in the wilderness to save the people. Christ sloughed off his skin or shroud in the tomb to be resurrected, just as the snake does. The snake is seen in the dream time of the Aboriginals. It is seen in hallucinogenic trips as the entwined strands of DNA. It is the waveform. It is seen everywhere. The snake holds within it the key to eternal life and enlightenment, and yet Christianity has demonized it over the course of 2,000 years. Now it is seen as the devil. We have to ask the simple question: why was the wonder of this wonderful knowledge hidden from us?